Hey, everybody. Welcome to Your Own Pathway Therapy Conversations, where we talk about what most therapists only whisper about. For those who don't know me, my name is Paya. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and trauma informed organizational leadership consultant. In here, we speak about topics that we've been conditioned to stay quiet about and the ones that rock the boat. But here, we're not protecting that silence, we're breaking it. So let's own it. Today's episode is something that I think all of us therapists or people who are in the field have wanted to say, have probably said it, and sometimes, let's be honest, may fear backlash. And I'm talking about something that we all know is mental health apps. Yes, there are so many mental health apps, there are so mental health platforms out there. And honestly, I think it's a great thing, but there are also a lot of nuances that I want to discuss today. So let's get right into it. First of all, I want to say that I want to be very clear. I have no problem, none, with tech founders creating apps that increase access to mental health and access to self care. I think that's wonderful. We need innovation, we need access. However, here's what I really start questioning their intentions. And one thing, so I'm going to be honest, I have worked for some of the big mental health apps for therapy. And you know what? They were there when I needed, especially when I was building my business. So I want to put that out there right now. So, one thing that has been concerning to me, and I'm sure to all of us therapists out there, is when you look at the leadership team of the people who are driving these mental health app and initiatives. And as I look at their mental health team, I notice something. I notice that most of them do not have a single person with a mental health background. No therapist, no psychologist, no licensed clinical social worker, no licensed professional counselor, no licensed, family therapist. It's just a bunch of founders with backgrounds in finance, engineering, or tech. And that's it. And okay, so maybe some of these platforms, maybe they do have someone with clinical experience behind the scenes. But if that is the case, start advertising that. Put them on your leadership team. Because when we look at your company as other people, and especially as therapists, if we don't see anyone with a mental health background in leadership, trust me, as a therapist, we can tell, we can feel it, and we know. We know because we can feel it in your pay structure, in your policies, and how you treat the very professionals you claim to partner with. I will not lie, and I'm sure a lot of you are like, yep, I've been through that. I've had companies, mental health app companies, reach out to me with my years of experience, with my licensed independent clinical social worker, being bilingual, being bicultural, all of that. And they're like, yes, Paya, we'll offer you $40 a session. 40 freaking dollars. And you expect me to show up with my full clinical expertise, my energy, and my ethical responsibility? And I have told them all flat out who have said this to me, offer me the $40. I have said that rate, I have said this to them in a professional way, of course, but I've said that rate will not attract quality clinicians. And the fact that you won't even negotiate says a lot about you and what you value. I recently had an experience like this too, where I was kind of curious, and I said, you know what, I'll see what they're about. And when I said, okay, would you be willing to negotiate because I have, XYZ? It's like, no, we are only doing 80. Oh, I mean, doing like $80 or $90. And I thought, so you're not flexible at all. And when they say, well, the reason is, we're insurance or this is the fixed rate. Okay, whatever. I get it. And again, I get it because every therapist is in a different season of their career. And maybe that is decent for them. Maybe getting that $70, maybe that $40 is decent for them. So if that's decent for you, that's okay. But for someone who's just starting out who doesn't have a lot of experience, yes, that's fine. Or if you're transitioning in some way and starting your own business, okay, I get that. Some may accept lower pay. But at some point, we have to call out the deeper issue. If your entire business model depends on underpaying clinicians, what are you actually really building? So, today we're going to talk about this growing problem: tech companies leading the charge in mental health without knowing a single mental health expert in the damn room. We are going there today. So, buckle up and sit down. So, the first part is the disconnect between tech and therapy. Here is the thing: when I look at most mental health startups, I see a pattern. I see the pattern of founders usually come from tech, venture capital, business, engineering, something like that. Now, don't get me wrong, they're amazing at scaling, at engineering, and at strategy, but they are not trained in human behavior or human suffering. And that is a huge problem because mental health is not a product, it is a relationship. It's an ecosystem that is built on trust, attunement, and safety. When you build a mental health company without therapists, you end up creating platforms that look efficient but are so empty. Yes, the user interface might be smooth, but the clinical experience is hollow because it's not informed by what actually happens in a therapy session. So, tech wants to disrupt everything, and disruption works great for delivery or for dating apps. But the truth is, you cannot disrupt someone's healing process. Healing doesn't follow a code or a algorithm. It's often very nonlinear. It's human and it requires empathy. Something you cannot automate, no matter how hard you try. And look, I've heard the stories and I'm not discrediting their stories, okay? First of all, I want to say I'm not discrediting any mental health founder story. But many founders created their platforms after going through their own difficult mental health journeys. And I respect that. I really do. That is turning pain into purpose, which is very powerful. And I'm going to call this out. But going through a mental health challenge doesn't automatically make you clinically trained to lead a mental health company. I said it. That's the difference between coaching and therapy. Both have value, but they're not the same. If you are running a mental health platform and presenting it as clinical care, that's a big difference between understanding mental health and being qualified to treat it. And I want to say, yes, coaching can be very transformative. I can't say that word, okay? Ooh, coaching can be transformative, tech can be transformative, but neither replaces the responsibility that comes with being a licensed mental health professional. So let's honor each role brings. But let's also stop pretending that they are the same thing. So, next, I want to talk about the harmful impact of this model. When you build a mental health company without actual mental health professionals in leadership, it definitely shows. Because when the people at the top don't understand what ethical care requires, everything becomes transactional. Everything becomes about numbers. How many clients, how many sessions, how fast can we grow? Instead of, is a person on the other end of the screen actually safe? And this is where the harm starts. Because these companies start to mirror the very systems that traumatize people by overworking them, by overworking the providers, definitely underpaying them, and calling it access. Again, I've seen job postings that pay therapists less than what a tech support worker makes. I'm not kidding you. And for any therapist, you're probably, yep, I have seen that too. While these companies raise millions in funding and call it innovation. If you are a tech company and you're paying your clinicians' poverty rates, you're not building access, you're building exploitation. And that's where it is, the invisible pollution that clouds this whole system. On the outside, it looks clean, sleek, branding, smiling faces, but underneath, there's the ethical smog, the burnout, the underpayment, and the misalignment. This is what happens when companies treat therapy as a service line instead of sacred work. And when I say sacred, I don't mean religious. I mean the profound responsibility of holding someone's mind, emotion, story, and their trauma with care. Because you cannot build trauma informed systems without trauma informed leaders. You cannot claim to provide ethical care when your internal structure is built on unethical practices. And you know what also gets me is a lot of these companies love to say, oh, we're DEI driven. So they post about inclusion and representation and community. But if they truly believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, how about you start pay? How about you pay us? Okay, start with equity and pay. Because I know that a lot of therapists who choose to watch this or not, a lot of us are bilingual, trilingual, bicultural, multi licensed in different states that bring very rare essential skills. And when companies tell them, oh, yeah, it's a flat rate, no, we won't consider anything that you bring, that isn't that isn't inclusion. You can see that, I'm fired up with this. This isn't inclusion, that's performance. And a lot of these apps are not practicing DEI. They're performing it. That's right. There, I said it. They are performing DEI. So, moving on, let's talk about the structural problem. Okay. This is not just about low rates, it's structural. Once venture capital enters the room, the conversation shifts from what do people need to what can we sell? Investors measure growth, not well being. The entire system, the entire system rewards expansion, not ethics. When mental health becomes a market, care becomes a commodity. And when care becomes a commodity, people, both the clients and the clinicians, become disposable. So, yes, like they build empathy features without ever understanding what empathy feels like in a session. You can like gamify healing as if trauma resolution can be tracked through badges or streaks. Ugh. The thing is, innovation without ethics is just extraction. It's using mental health as a brand, not a mission. And here's a deeper truth that really gets me fired up is this work is still so gendered. Let's be honest, the therapy world is largely female. The tech and the VC is largely male. VC, venture capitalists. So the emotional labor, the attunement, the clinical expertise, all of that gets treated as soft, optional, or secondary to the real work of coding and scaling. Emotional work doesn't fit neatly into a spreadsheet. You can't plug empathy into a growth formula, but that's exactly why it's essential. A lot of self help culture was built into healing like it's a solo act. And this makes therapists feel and be invisible. It turns the relationship based into a care consumer product. So, no, we're not doing that. We're not building systems that strip the soul out of the work and then call it progress. We're bringing logic and ethics to the table and leaving the ego at the door. This is why I do the work that I do. This is why I'm doing this episode. It's to really combat this, to name it, to challenge it, and to rebuild the whole damn thing in the whole damn system. So, what needs to change? Like what needs to change? If tech truly wants to revolutionize mental health, it needs to start by doing what therapy does best. Collaborate. They need to co found with clinicians. They need to put licensed professionals in executive roles, not just token advisory spots. Pay fairly and design ethically. Because representation without the redistribution, honestly, it's just decoration. So, also include clinicians from multiple backgrounds in leadership, in strategy, and innovation because healing innovation begins where the ego ends. Yes, technology can amplify care, but it cannot replace actual care. Build systems that honor the humans who actually deliver it. Build systems that honor the clients who trust them. And build systems that understand healing is not a trend, it is trust. Because once you lose the soul of a system, no amount of funding can bring it back. So, in closing this episode out, I want to say again that this is not about being anti-technology. I truly do want access to expand. I do believe in innovation and I definitely want more people to get help sooner. But access without ethics is in progress. Because when growth becomes about investors instead of integrity, companies lose their soul. And what they do is they create the same trauma cycles they claim to heal. So if you are deciding, or if you're, a tech person and you're thinking, I want to build a mental health company, ask yourself, who's at the table? Who's guiding your ethics? Who is protecting the people that you serve? And who is protecting the people who you deliver care to? Because healing isn't a pitch deck, it's people. And when you forget that, you're not creating wellness. You're creating another system that just wounds. So that is all I have for today. And yes, this episode needed to be done to call out mental health apps. And again, I want to say I'm not against them. What I'm against is the lack of ethics, the lack of having collaboration with mental health therapists, and I want to say we're not protecting the silence anymore. We're breaking all of this, and somebody needs to say all of this because real change does not come from coding another app. It comes from building systems with ethics, humanity, and heart. So, to every company out there that is building this space, I want to remind you, check your mission, check your leadership, and mostly check your soul. So, as always, own it. And before the smog of profit, close your purpose. So, that is all I have for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button. And if you like my other episodes, please subscribe. Again, for those who don't know me, my name is Paia. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and I'm a trauma informed consultant. So, that is all I have. Take care. And I hope this episode, who is ever watching this, um, gives them things to think about. And if you're a health app builder, I hope you take into consideration to think about everything that was discussed in this video. Otherwise, take care and I will see you all next time. Bye.